Greetings, Dave Dickinson here from astroguys.com, and I thought, I'm sorry I'm a little bit late for coming on, but I thought I would do, as I've been doing the last few weeks, do a brief chat here on Periscope as kind of a weekly pre-show, as a warm-up for the weekly Space Hangout. I'm here in Tampa, Florida right now. I just saw the new Star Wars this morning. I won't give away any spoilers, but I will say it's pretty awesome. If you're a Star Wars fan or if you're a sci-fi fan, go and see it, definitely. It did not disappoint. J.J. Abrams is a very good student of Star Wars. As he said in the interviews before, he hit all the right action beats. There's a lot of stuff in there that's even a little deeper. I'm still kind of digesting a lot of what I saw for the movie. It's a must for fans, and I would definitely go see it. See it in 3D IMAX. Spring the money for it too. It's definitely worth seeing it as a 3D IMAX film. Anyway, I'm probably going to talk about on the weekly Space Hangout here at the top of the hour being 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, coming up in about 26 minutes. I want to talk about what's going on in the year in astronomy in 2016. I know I mentioned this briefly last week. Let me adjust this a little tiny bit so I'm centered. There. Mentioned this very briefly last week. There's some interesting things going on in 2016. I am doing a very large blog post. I will release it on the day I'm looking at right now, unless I get a request otherwise, is December 28th. I want to put this... Oh, we got another person joined. Cool. On December 28th, because usually that week between Christmas and New Year's is where people's minds in the media and the news start turning their attention, the roundup, the best of last year and what's going on next year. So that Monday, 2 Mondays from now, I'm going to release a very large blog post. This is not a listicle per se. It's not a top 10, although I could drill it down to a top 10. Oh, we have someone from Mexico joined us as well. That's cool. I want to drill... This is 101 astronomical events going on next year, and probably some of the biggest highlights. We have a transit of Mercury across the face of the Sun. Some of you might remember the transit of Venus across the Sun in 2012. Mercury is not quite as rare as Venus. We only had 2 transits of Venus this century, the last one being 2012, and that's the last for this century. We won't get another one until 2117. The transit of Mercury happens roughly about once a decade. I viewed the last one from the Flandre Observatory in Tucson, Arizona in 2006. I nearly got heat stroke out there that day, standing out there with my solar scope observing. I actually built a filter for it because I was kind of in the same mode I am now. I was living in a hotel and we were packed up and ready to go when that one happened. And this one coming next on I have the date, May 9th, is going to be visible around the Atlantic region again. So this is going to be highly visible to a lot of people. It takes an hour or so for the black dot of Mercury to cross over the face of the Sun. And that's going to be a very rare event that's only happening this decade in 2016. There's also a total solar eclipse that is going to be over Southeast Asia on... See, I'm reading this off. Oh, and if you've never got this before, total solar eclipse on March 9th. I just got this. This is the last one he's doing. This is highly recommended. Guy Otwell does this every year. This is the last one he's doing, unfortunately, the 2016 one. This is part of one of the things I'm referencing every year. There are several things that I'm referencing online. This is one of the very few paper references, like along with Burnham's Celestial Handbook, that's not available electronically, that I still own a paper copy of when I digitized a few years ago. I mean, I have Starry Night, I have Stellarium. I'm looking at the International Occultation Timing Association page and using programs like Occult 4.2 to forecast occultations that are happening like in 4000 AD and things like that. But it's very interesting and cool to have. This is almost a work of art, and it's going to be sad to see these not being made anymore. Oh, cool. We got, I don't know if I'm going to... Nanotech Fan just joined. Cool. Welcome. We're talking about astronomy events for 2016. There's also something very interesting I learned is the closest, when I was doing research, I just learned this about a week or so ago, on the supermoon. We have a supermoon usually every year, where the moon falls within 24 hours, full moon falls within 24 hours of perigee, more of a cultural thing than a scientific thing, but, people, we always write about it. There is one on November 14th, and this is very unique. That is going to be the closest perigee moon of the span of about 30 years. I haven't looked forward and backward, but at least over Gene Meas has predicted that this is going to be the closest full moon over the span of 1990 to 2020. So this is by very, we have supermoons every year. It's close, but not by much. But I suspect when it comes around time and people start realizing it, it's going to be a big deal because people can't get enough of supermoons. So we're going to include. I like the definition that a supermoon is a moon, again, a full moon that happens within 24 hours of lunar perigee. And we usually get a season of about three of those, two being kind of bracketing one that's really close and then kind of semi-close. So those are some interesting things. We have some interesting comets. We already have one right now. Comet 2013 US 10 Catalina. These are binocular comets. We don't have any naked eye comets coming by yet. There's another one that's getting a little brighter than they thought right now. That's S2 Pan-STARRS that I just wrote about for Universe Today this week. That one, it's going to be visible for the next few weeks, so check out my post on that. US 10 Catalina is passing circumpolar in the next month. January 1st, it's going to be very near the bright star Arcturus in the constellation Boötes, so that's going to be interesting to make a good landmark to aim your binoculars at and see. I have not seen US 10 Catalina yet. I've been living under fairly lighted, polluted skies over the last few weeks, so I've not had a chance to. I've looked for it a few times, but you got to be out somewhere pretty dark to see it. Another binocular comet next summer is X1 Pan-STARRS. That's been known about. I think it's 2014 X1 Pan-STARRS. I'm not certain what year that was discovered, but we don't have any bright comets coming by. We have a very close conjunction, however, of Jupiter and Saturn, which is going to occur on, I know I saw it, August 27th, and that's going to be an evening conjunction. They're going to be about 4 arc minutes apart. There's also an annular eclipse on September 1st over Central Africa. And incidentally, this total solar eclipse that's occurring in March, this is going to be the last total solar eclipse until the big one in August 21st, 2017. That's passing over the central US, and a lot of people are going to see that. We've only got 2 eclipses left, and that's going to be kind of a big deal. And we're going to have the usual meteor showers. We're going to have the quaternids, the Perseids, the Geminids, which just passed. You can always expect these annual showers to come by. We're going to have several occultations of bright stars. I think Regulus gets occulted over southeastern Asia. That's going to be on, I forget the date, I'd have to look it up. It's going to be in the post. And an interesting one I just found out about, and this is going to be over southwestern United States. In 2019, there's an occultation of the bright star Sirius, the brightest star in the sky. So that's going to be kind of a big deal. You might remember a few years ago, Regulus actually got occulted over New York City. Only it was cloudy and nobody saw it, but that kind of broke through. You have some of these astronomical events that only really hardcore eclipse chasers, occultation chasers, are the ones that are after it, and then some of them, like total solar eclipses and supermoons and things like that, really break through where they break through into a larger consciousness in the public. Oh, Mars opposition. How could I forget? Next year, we have one of the closest Mars oppositions for about a decade. This is, we're going through a cycle right now after having a lot of bad oppositions because Mars has a very elliptical orbit. Mars is now coming closer in opposition, and this opposition is going to be the best in about a decade, and it's going to set us up for we have oppositions about every 26 months where Mars is opposite to the Sun and it's at its best viewing time. This is going to set us up for a very good opposition in 2018, which is going to be nearly as good as the historic one that was the best in several thousand years in 2003. You might remember that. So that's going to come along next year as well. Mars opposition next year falls on May 22nd. So that's going to be kind of cool, and it's going to be a good time to, with a small telescope, Mars never appears as big as a full moon, no matter what people tell you on the internet, but it's going to be a good time. That I would put up there probably right behind the transit of Mercury as the astronomical event of the year. And I think the only thing that would knock that out of the top spot is if we had a bright comet. We're kind of due our bright comet of the generation. Usually we get one about every 20 years or so. So we're kind of due for that to come around. But that's some of the things you can look forward to in 2016 coming up. Again, the post is going to be out December 28th. In the top of the hour here, we're going to go live on Google Plus. I'll be tweeting that out as well. So follow my Twitter stream. We're going to be going live on Universe Today with a bunch of other space journalists and a special guest. And if anybody else has any more questions, I'm going to probably shut this down in about a minute and get ready for the weekly space hangout. Any questions about events, Star Wars? I won't give away any spoilers. I'll say it's a cool movie. I know most people haven't seen it yet, although the theater I was at this morning was packed. Another cool thing that happened this week I wrote about on Sky and Telescope is China launched its Dark Matter Particle Explorer. That was kind of interesting because I had to kind of wrap my head around some higher astrophysics. I'm not an astrophysicist or an astronomer, so I kind of had to wrap my brain around that to write that for Sky and Telescope. But it was kind of interesting, and I didn't realize this was going to happen. I don't think most people. China's kind of hush-hush about what they do in space. So I didn't realize till about a day or two before launch. Oh, and we got a SpaceX launch. We had a lot of launches this week. We had the SpaceX launch going off on the Cape tomorrow night. They're launching an Orbcomsat. They're not going to the International Space Station. But the big news is that they may try to land the Falcon first stage back at the Cape. I'm kind of curious why they decided to do that first landing at night. Maybe they have. You wouldn't think you'd want to try your first landing at night, but I'm not an engineer. But that's going to be interesting to watch. They'll have that live on NASA TV, I'm sure. So make sure you watch the weekly Space Hangout, and I will see you in about 15 minutes.